Thank you. Okay, well then now it is 11:30 a.m. So we'll go ahead and get started. So I will now open a continued hearing on appeal of a notice of violation in Clatsop County violation file number 24-000066. Today's date is Tuesday, June 24th, 2025, and the time is 11:30 a.m. My name is Rebecca Dorman, and I'll be acting as the hearings officer for today's hearing. I have a few things to go through before we get started. And much of this will be a reminder for those of you who were here at the initial hearing. So although I provide hearings officer services to the county through a contract, I am an independent, impartial decision maker in this matter. I have no financial stake in the outcome of this appeal, and I have no bias one way or another. I have been in contact with county staff regarding scheduling the hearings and to receive the record in this matter. I have also discussed with staff the definition of responsible party in this case, which is a little bit less straightforward than it might be in other cases. But other than that, I have no other communications to disclose with county staff or any other parties. And I will be making a decision based on the evidence and testimony presented and application of the applicable code. Now, at this time, does anyone wish to challenge my qualifications to hear this matter or any of the disclosures that I've just made?
We don't.
No.
Thank you. And before I move forward, it looks like Ms. Matthews is requesting that Ashley, John, and Marie, if you saw a prompt to change.
Yeah, join as a panelist or stay as attendee.
Yeah, can you change to panels? I think that will allow us to see you. If you want to, or I suppose you could stay with just your voices. I can see you, but now you're muted. So just no rush, but when you are able to, there you go. You got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll keep going with my statements here. So hearing no objections, thank you. I'll move on. The property that is the subject of this appeal is 89740 Highway 101, Warrenton, Oregon. The property owners are Marie Owen Hansmeyer and Raymond Hansmeyer. Occupants on the subject property include Ashley Wynn and John Owen. According to the county, the following violations exist on the subject property and constitute a public nuisance. Accumulation of solid waste, according to Clatsop County Code 804010, 804040, and existence of an unpermitted auto wrecking yard pursuant to the Land and Water Development and Use Code, Article 1, Section 1, 500, and an unpermitted RV occupation pursuant to the Land and Water Development and Use Code, Section 2, 100, and 2, 300, sub 10. So in this case, the county has the burden of proving the alleged violations by a preponderance of the evidence, meaning that the violations are more probable to exist than not. That's the standard. The rules of evidence do not apply in this case. I'll accept any evidence that a reasonable or responsible person would customarily rely on in making serious decisions in their ordinary business affairs. And let's see, testimony that's provided must be true in this case. So if you do intend to provide testimony, please go ahead and raise your right hand at this time and affirm by stating yes, that you will provide testimony that is true, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury. So now you may say yes or no.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. And when it's your turn to provide testimony, just state your name for the record and your mailing address so that you may receive a copy of the decision. I'm going to start by asking staff to provide an overview and the staff report along with walking through exhibits or maybe anything new since we last were together here. Then I'll ask appellants to respond to the county's evidence and provide their testimony. And then the county will have a chance for a final argument. The hearings officer's decision will be issued 14 days from either today's date or the date that the record is closed, whichever is earlier of the two. And the hearings officer's decision, my decision, is the county's final decision, but it is appealable Clatsop County Circuit Court. So before we begin, are there any procedural questions that I can answer? Seeing none. Okay, so now I'll ask Ms. Mendoza to please give your staff report and maybe update on the exhibits and evidence presented by the county.
Thank you, Your Honor. Since the last hearing, the county submitted several documents, and it includes, I'm sorry, I'll start over. My name is Nancy Mendoza. My mailing address is 800 Exchange Street, Suite 100, Astoria, Oregon, 97103. Since the last hearing on June 11th, several documents were submitted, and they include certified letters or receipt of certified letters sent with the notice of warnings, the notice of violations, the hearing procedures, a statement from the complainant regarding the drone photos, a hearing date and related documents that it was received, and the notice of hearing that for today was also submitted. These were submitted onto the county calendar and also to the hearings officer. I don't believe any of these documents are evidence of the violations occurring. They're just documents that didn't get submitted the first time. So onto the exhibits, what the county has to show. On January 25th, 2024, the Code Compliance Department received an incident report from the Sheriff's Office concerning a property owned by John Sauer, tax map description T7, range 10, section 22B, tax lot 900. This property is adjacent to 89740 Highway 101. We received the report because there was an individual living on this property. There were several inoperable vehicles, and the report also stated that there were several inoperable vehicles at 89740 Highway 101 and possibly occupied RVs on the property. On March 22nd, 2024, I did a site visit to John Sauer's property to issue a notice of warning to the occupant in the black van. At that time, I took photos of the 89740 property, and the photos. There's photos that show an occupied RV, inoperable vehicles, and an accumulation of solid waste. These photos were It also shows the notice of warning issued to the individual on the John Sauer property as well. On April 11th, 2024, a notice of warning was issued to Marie and Raymond Owen Hansmeyer for the following violations at 89740 Highway 101, accumulation of solid waste, an auto wrecking yard, and RV occupation. The actions required by the responsible parties in the notice of warning included that within 30 days to cease all RV occupancy, remove all solid waste with receipt of legal disposal, and remove all but one inoperable vehicles or provide receipts for parts and service to restore the vehicles. The county did not receive any verification from the responsible party or occupants of the property that any action had been taken to either deny or clear the violations. On April 13th, 2025, just over a year later, my office received a complaint against 89740 Highway 101 with drone photos showing occupied RVs on the east side of the property, which is the front of the property, as well as dismantled vehicles and an accumulation of solid waste surrounding the occupied RV. And also on April 23rd, another drone photo was provided by the complainant showing an occupied RV on the west side of the property. So the back side, there's a dune that sits between the front and the back of the property. And also it showed the black van that was on the adjacent property was now moved on to the 89740 property. A notice violation was issued, including an auto wrecking yard, an accumulation of solid waste, RV occupancy, and it was required that within 30 days that they remove all but one inoperable vehicles, remove all solid waste, and provide receipt of legal disposal, and cease all RV occupancy. There's also photos of during that time on May 9th, after the notice of violation was issued, of some cleanup of the property, and it does show several photos. However, the county, those were drone photos. The county did not receive any verification from the responsible party or occupants of the property that any action had been taken to either deny or clear the property of the violations. On May 23rd, 2025, an administrative review determined that the following violations were still occurring on the property: accumulation of solid waste, RV occupancy, and an auto wrecking yard, inoperable vehicles. Photos were provided on 5/21 for these violations, and further photos were provided after that to show that it was still occurring. This property is difficult to get photos. The front of the property, the only way to take the photos is from the side of the highway to pull off, and it's difficult and dangerous to do that. So we were limited on the photos that we could provide. The drone photos that were provided helped immensely to show what was occurring on the property. From May 29th through June 6th, further photos of inoperable vehicles, RV occupancy, and solid waste are provided. And on June 3rd, 2025, a notice of hearing was sent to the responsible party for a hearing scheduled on June 11th. And then on June 11th, we rescheduled for today.
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions for staff before we move on. Can you hear me okay?
You're a little quiet.
Okay. So a couple of questions. So am I correct to take the county's position that there are 3 separate violations on the property.
Correct.
Okay, and those are the accumulation of solid waste, auto wrecking yard unpermitted, RV occupation unpermitted. Those are the 3 violations.
Correct.
Okay. And what is the county's position on who is the responsible party at this point?
The responsible party is John Owen and Ashley Wynn. The property owner is Marie Owen Hansmeyer. Also the responsible party being the property owner.
Okay. And I saw on some notices Raymond Hansmeyer, and is that accurate or not?
I believe Raymond is deceased. He is listed as a property owner on the county tax records.
And let's see. I saw in the record a note, I think from the complainant, that maybe the violations had been moved from one side of the property to another side of the property. Recently, is there any evidence that that is occurring, or is that kind of further in the past information?
There's a photo from April 23rd, which shows there's a photo from April 13th that shows a white and blue RV on the front of the property. And then on April 23rd, it shows the RV on the back side of the property, surrounded by vehicles, personal belongings. And then it shows that same RV on May 9th with those belongings removed. And that RV is currently off the property.
Okay. And then does the county have a position on imposition of penalties based on the county's evidence of violations being present after the notice of violation had been issued?
The county recommends that the responsible party pay the $500 civil penalty for each violation. And if the violations are not cleared within 30 days, that the full fine for each violation be recorded as a lien against the property. The full fine for each violation being $20,000. With that said, the county understands that John recently had a surgery and there could be limitations on the cleanup of the property. So I'm recommending 30 days with the understanding that it might be longer depending on the doctor's recommendations.
Okay. So just so I'm clear, I would issue a decision 14 days from today or from when the record closes that would potentially impose penalties, but also give a 30-day period for the responsible parties to provide sufficient evidence to county staff that the violations have been cleared. And then they would not be subject to the full fee penalties. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, so it would be 30 days after your decision. If the violations are sustained, 30 days after your decision. And then if they are not cleared within that 30 days, then we recommend the full fine of 20,000 per violation.
Okay, but regardless, the county's position is that a penalty should be assessed for each of the violations, so a total of $1,500.
That's correct.
Okay.
I know.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mendoza. I think now
Thank
I'm
you.
ready to ask for Ms. Nguyen and Mr. Owens' response and testimony, please.
Hi, do I need to state my name again?
Sure, please do, and your mailing address, please.
Is Ashley Nguyen, and our mailing address is 89740 Highway 101, Warrenton, Oregon, 97146. And I'm speaking on behalf of the other two responsible parties, Marie Hansmeyer and John Owen. So I wanted to start off by first saying, she talked about the notice of warning that came in 2024. We did not receive that. She did state that it went to the people in the that lived in the or had the black RV on the adjacent property. We did not find out that they intercepted that and had that until just recently, when we'd asked them to move is when that came out. So we did not find out about any of these violations until Nancy's site visit in April of 2025. And so that's kind of where our timeline starts. And we immediately, upon receiving the notice of violations, jumped into action to try to remedy them. The occupants that were camping were asked to leave, and they did. So immediately that blue and white RV that she mentioned was where they were moving into, and it came on site for two separate occasions just for them to move all of their personal belongings from where it was at into that RV. And then the vehicles that were being worked on that were scattered kind of along the property driveway on the east side of the property that went to the west side of the property, basically just went back there for staging, because we were under the understanding when we talked to Nancy in April that they were more concerned with what was in sight and what could be seen. And so we were trying to, as we were cleaning up, get it out of sight, basically. So all the stuff that belonged to the campers went to that back side of the property where he did spread it out, you know, and sorted everything and then loaded into his trailers and got everything off. And by, I think it was the 23rd of May, all of his stuff, with the exception of the one black van, has been removed. That black van is operable. It drove from the exhibit photos where it shows it in the campsite to the back west side of the property. So it's not an inoperable vehicle. We have no more inoperable vehicles on the property at this time. They've all been removed. And we did submit photos to show that everything has been cleared that was listed in the complaint. There is some limitations, like she mentioned, health-wise with John because of his surgery. And I did provide the discharge notes for you to look at from his doctor. We did request a actually written, because that's kind of a generic discharge that were specific to John, because he did tell him he cannot do any heavy lifting over 5 pounds for the first 30 days. And then very limited exertion after that, because he did have a lot of mesh put in. So we've done what we can up to this point, but from the date we were notified in April until current, we have been actively working on abating all of the issues that were brought to our attention. As far as the first complaint of the wrecking yard, we don't even, per the state code of how that statute reads, doesn't even apply to us, because it says there are 2 or more inoperable vehicles not in running condition, stored in the open, and are not being restored to operation. Well, the 2 that were parked there that the exhibit photos show was being actively worked on. And I gave you guys a photo. It's a dark photo that shows him in the middle of the night one night working on vehicles. So those were the only 2 inoperable vehicles that we had on site, and they were basically being put into one. He was using parts off one to make the other one operable, and it wasn't actively been worked on. And the minute we found out that this was a violation, technically, he towed that off site, and I provided a photo of that one vehicle up on a towing truck, basically, and being removed. So we abated the vehicle issues right away. I don't see how the auto wrecking yard applies to us in any way, shape, or form. We weren't storing vehicle parts. We weren't dismantling vehicles here. Nobody is a dismantler or works as a dismantler. So we were working on personal vehicles basically, and they were all actively being worked on. The other photos that she provided in all exhibits of the trucks, there's 3 trucks basically in question. They kind of get talked about interminglingly. And one gets confused for the other, but there's a gray truck that is John's. There's a white Ford that does not have a canopy on it. And then there's another white truck that does have a canopy on it. All 3 of those vehicles in various parts of these exhibits say that they were inoperable, but her exhibits alone show these vehicles in multiple photos being moved in multiple different locations. So they were all operable. The inoperable statement is totally incorrect. They used, John and Kirk use these vehicles daily. So, and the photos that was presented by the state clearly show that these trucks have been in different positions all over the yard at different times that these photos were taken. So that auto wrecking yard, I think, violation, we should not be even fined for, let alone be, in charge of trying to abate, because it wasn't there as an active violation. The second one of the public nuisance, again, in multiple photos, you see garbage and stuff and refuse in the bed of that gray truck. That's how we take stuff to the dump. So, and all of the photos where she says, accumulation of solid waste, like in May 21 of 25 photo accumulation of solid waste. If you look carefully at those photos, every photo does not show the same pile in the same spot. So we weren't accumulating. I don't even know what the state definition is of what an accumulation of solid waste is, but we weren't storing garbage. We take active dump runs, and I did provide the state with 3 copies of receipts of dump runs. There's obviously more. We just weren't keeping them. They're the only ones that I had to dig out of the truck to show you guys. But so as far as the second code violation of public nuisance, we weren't storing solid waste. The accumulation of stuff that was sitting next to the vehicles were part of the vehicle restoration. And these guys have a lot of tools and construction supplies that they use in their business endeavors. And so while to some it looks like junk, to them and to us, it is not junk. It's not waste. It's not accumulating. It's stuff that we use on an active basis. So, and then I did provide photos of how everything looks currently to date. So all of that stuff has either been completely hauled off site, it's in a trailer on site, or has been stored, moved indoors into the storage shed. So our photos show that is totally been remedied. And then the last one of the unpermitted RV use or occupancy, I'm sorry. The big RV that you see slanted that's parked like parallel to the house is my RV, and it did not land on site here until I think it was the middle of May. I mean, the middle of April. Hang on, I'm looking for my note. Sorry. Okay, so that's my personal RV, and it was in St. Helens where my house is. I only bring it out here when either I'm working on it or he needs to watch my cat, and she stays in there. So it showed up here in April 6th or April 11th, I'm sorry, of this year. And then right after that, I had to go back to St. Helens to be a safety supervisor for a CPS case. And I was with that in St. Helens living with those people until the middle of May. So my RV's not been occupied. I don't live in my RV when it's here. I'm obviously in here with him. So when it's out here, it's not being occupied. The other RV in question that was on the side of the house, the Rexall RX that is in all these photos basically, could not be occupied. It had a leak. It got moldy. We completely gutted it. That's what some of those photos she says of mattresses and personal belongings sitting outside. That's from us trying to clean it out. And then we basically just turned it into a tool shed, basically. I mean, it just stored tools. And so there is nobody living in RVs on this property. Yes, we have them here, but they're not being lived in. And mine comes and goes. And again, it'll be gone by the end of July. So there will only be one, the fifth wheel left, and it is not occupied. So the state doesn't providing you with photos of RVs parked, you know, in various spots on our property does not show occupancy. There's no proof of occupancy because we are not living in those RVs. Mine stays plugged in because I keep a dehumidifier running, and I do, like I said, have a cat in there. But again, when I'm here, I'm inside the house with them. So it is our position that we aren't in violation, and the things that could be questionable, we have already actively abated, and I have provided photos to show that. And so we would just hope you would consider the fact that the state did not meet their burden at all, and that some of these don't even apply. So I think that's it. Was there anything else, Johnny? Oh, as far as the campsite goes up on the hill, that was where most of the stuff that we had to remove came down from. We had no idea she was up there. We didn't even know that existed until the drone photos. So we saw the drone photos, because our neighbors have never said anything to us. They didn't come knock on the door and say, hey, this is bothering us. We didn't even know. So, and once we found out there is laws, squatter rights and stuff that we have to abide by as homeowners, you know, to give them time to get their stuff out. So the 30-day timeline that we've been working under, the assumption of that started in April, we still could not physically remove them until they had their 30 days by law to get their stuff out. So that's why literally this past week, we've been running around like chickens with our heads cut off, trying to get the rest of the stuff that was left behind off. And there was a lot, 3 truckloads. It was insane. And it's up a steep hill and it was pouring down rain. And so we're doing our best. But again, like I said, there's no more inoperable vehicles. Everything here that runs, you know, it works, and there's nobody living in the RVs. And again, my RV, the big 40-footer, will be gone by the end of July anyway, so it won't even matter. It won't even be a question.
Thank you. And I did see the pictures that you submitted and looked through those this morning. So I had a couple of questions to ask about them. So with the AirX mobile home, it sounds like it was gutted, like you said, and then used for tool storage. But I also saw on maybe the picture that that it's going to be removed on June 30th, or I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, did you sell it or did you give? I don't know if it's sold or if it was given away, but it now has a new owner. They just need, and it's operable. It runs. It's been moved. I think in one of my pictures you can see that it's not in the same spot it's been, but they just can't get out here to get it until I think in a week. I think at the end of next weekend is that when they said, Johnny? Yeah. So next weekend they're supposed to be here to pick that up. So that's going to be gone. And that again, it had a leak, and nobody was in it. We didn't know it was leaking until it was too late, you know, and then it was covered in mold, and it was basically just yard art anyways. I mean, we didn't really use it. So we just figured we'll just use it for tool storage. And the guys did hang out over there. I mean, the awning has always been out so they could hang out, you know, and when guys are out there doing guy stuff, they had a place to go and sit. But yeah, nobody was living in it. It didn't even have an extension. It didn't have power running to it or anything.
And do you think that there's any evidence that you can provide to the county to show that it's been sold, or to when it is taken by the new owners, that's happened in the next week or so?
We didn't have a bill of sale because he bought it from a friend. So, and I think they're just junking it. I think they're going to use it as a trailer, gut it and use it as a flatbed trailer. Not sure though, but I can provide the county with a copy of the transaction that's leaving our hands to theirs, and then give you guys a photo of the yard once it's gone.
Okay. Photo, and what would that be? Kind of like, do you have like a receipt, or would it be a title transfer? What do you think that documentation might look like?
Just handling it, so I don't know if because we never even titled to transfer the title to us.
Sure.
So I don't know if there will be a title transfer, but I definitely can do the transaction, you know, write up something that the transaction has happened.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe like, would that be like a bank account kind of thing, or what are you thinking?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe I think they were getting it for free, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no bill of sale, but maybe just like a gift letter that we're gifting this as is to these people and they have till such and such date to pick it up.
Yeah, okay, maybe, could they sign it, the new owners too, to?
Put their information on it and have them sign it. And it might be sooner than next week. I mean, I just told them they had to be gone by, the next Friday, so.
Okay. Then let's see, and then, so you talked about the truck, the white truck with a canopy. And you pointed out that if we look at the pictures, we can see that it's been moved from place to place.
There, you'll see. In exhibit 3, that was, I think it's April 13th to May 13th, just those two photos from those two exhibits from this year show that white truck, the white truck without a canopy was behind the Rexall. And then it shows it's gone. And then the white truck with the canopy is now behind the Rexall. So it shows that, and then that same truck with the canopy also on an April 23rd exhibit, it shows it up front under the tree. So if you just kind of look and side by side, you can see that they're kind of hopping all over the yard. And then same with the gray truck. Johnny usually parks it up next to my RV in the driveway, but it's never parked exactly the same. It's like slanted, or sometimes it's got garbage in the bed and sometimes it doesn't. So, but and then I did give you a picture with it having garbage that came up off the hill. That's part when it's back on the hill, shows it obviously it's operable. So again, moving all over the yard. Had you put car dealership, if that was illegal to have here, we might have fallen into that, but we definitely are not.
In cars, oh yeah. Okay, then the next thing I saw, you included those dump run receipts. And I didn't have a chance to kind of zoom in and see, but do those have dates on them?
First, there was 2 dump runs that we made really quick right after the April when Nancy visited. And I don't have those receipts, but I have the first one I could find was from May 17th. So we were still within that 30-day abatement window, I think, from when she site visited us in April, was the first one. And that was everything basically that was on the front east side of the property. The west side and the hill camping stuff is the other 2 receipts that we had to physically wait because of squatter rights to get up there and remove it. Because we had to give her 30 days to clean it out.
Okay. Okay, oh, I was gonna ask about the semi truck. It sounds like that is sold and is going to be moved or is moved.
Not sold. That's mine, and I'm in the process of moving myself to Florida to take care of my parents. And so that's the truck that's going to pull the trailer unless I can get it into a pod. So I won't know until this weekend is when I'm going to be back in St. Helens dealing with my moving stuff. So my semi, it's either going to get sold. If I don't need to pull it to Florida to, pull in my stuff, then it'll get sold and be gone by the end of July. If it does go to Florida, then again, probably by the end of July, we won't be here anyways. So I just brought it up simply because I didn't know she was going to come back by and she's like, oh my God, they're moving more vehicles on here now. It looks bad, but yeah, those are mine.
And and so it sounds like the semi is operational if you plan to use it to tow your stuff.
And I don't know if I gave you a picture, but I could provide you with a picture that shows, or even video that shows us just using it this last weekend to move the 5th wheel. So yeah, it's fully operational.
Okay, yeah, I think if you have something like that and it's easy enough to submit that, I can ask that it be a condition in my decision, that we have that evidence in the record that it's operational. Since it sounds like it might be there for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm planning on heading to Florida by the end of July. So my big 5th wheel and that semi will be gone either way by the end of July.
Okay. The next thing I have is just to talk about the black bus.
Okay. That belongs to the guy that was camping, and it is still in the back, sitting there, just because he has so many vehicles and trailers where he moved to. He's just trying to figure out how he's gonna fit them in his new spot. And because it's operational, we told him he could, not to stress him out, that he could leave it parked there. We just didn't want it up front. So I don't know, John, just, when he's coming to get that.
I'm not exactly sure, but it's,
I mean, if it's an issue and you guys,
it shouldn't be an issue because there's,
yeah, because it's,
read the paperwork for the violation. It's like, it's allowed to be there.
yeah. So, I mean, we don't feel like it's a violation to have it sitting back there right now because it is operational. If it is, if I'm not reading code right, then, and if you guys need it, it needs to be gone, then just give us a timeline of when it has to be gone and we'll have him come pick it up. That's the only thing left of their stuff that's left on our property.
And so if I'm following this, I think the black bus was on an adjacent property and then it moved to your property.
It technically was on our property, right, John? That when he was out here, that's our property.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always been on property. When she stated that it was, she approached them on the adjacent property, it technically was still on our property. It just butted right up to the property line of that other property. But and then once she told us, hey, you're in violation, and we talked to her in person in April, that's when it moved to the back. And it simply moved back there just because he uses it as storage, basically. And so he needed to get all of his stuff consolidated and spread out and then repacked. And that's the only thing that's left of his, is it? And I don't even know if there's stuff in it. I think he put a lot of that in his trailer. But
That's it. That's the only.
Yeah. And again, in the photos with the black bus, if you kind of track it, it's moving too. So it runs. And yeah, it's just sitting back there basically waiting to be driven off.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like there were at least two campers. Maybe one wasn't authorized by you, a squatter. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So the camper in the black van is a friend of Johnny's, and just he came up, bad luck, had some bad timing, and he has a lot of stuff because he's an arborist. He cuts trees and does construction, and there's just a lot of ladders and tools and things like that. And he lost the place where he was at. I don't know the circumstances, but asked if he could come here and stay. And or actually no, initially asked if he could just put some of his stuff here. So that's how it originally started, was his stuff here. And then he started staying here a little bit more and asked John if he could camp, back there until he found a place to live. And John told him, he's got a big heart, so told him it was okay. And then this female that ended up coming kind of along with him later on, maybe about 6 months in, we started noticing her, and he did ask if it was okay for her to visit with him. And we said, okay. We just had no idea she had set up on, and we were never up there. I mean, it's a steep hill, and so we did not know that was going on until we got this complaint. And by then he was already in the process of leaving anyways, because he had gotten his that big blue and white RV, and so he now had a place to sleep and was moving to a new place. And so he was slowly doing it, but this just obviously accelerated it. And we have not seen her since that day, really, because we approached her right away, and she has not been back. So nobody knows how to get in touch with her. But
okay, so just from my understanding, I'm going to kind of summarize, I think, what your main arguments against, or your appeal arguments are. Number one, you're arguing that you didn't receive a notice of warning, and so you weren't aware of the violations or what needed to happen until April 2025. And you're also challenging, I think, all three of the violations as ever existing on the property. Okay.
auto wrecking yard doesn't apply because there was only 2 inoperables and they were both being worked on. And then the public nuisance doesn't apply because we were actively, I mean, just the photos alone that the state has submitted shows that the accumulated waste that she refers to is never in the next picture. So we actively, I mean, we weren't accumulating. I don't know what the state definition of accumulation is, but having, you know, household garbage in the bed of your truck waiting to go to the dump for a week does not, to me, seem like it's accumulation. So, and you can see in some of the photos that the gray truck always has garbage in it. So it's an ongoing thing because we take it to the dump, you know, at least probably once a week, maybe not. But so that one we're actively, I mean, we're not accumulating waste. So that we don't apply either. And then RVs are not occupied, you know, and the state, just my DHS statements that I provided shows that I wasn't even physically here to occupy it, even if I wanted to occupy it. I was in St. Helens. So those RVs are not occupied. So that doesn't apply either. So yeah, I'm arguing that all 3 are not. We aren't, shouldn't be in violation.
Okay, I think that covers the questions that I have for you all. Thank you for your time, evidence, and testimony. And now I'm going to ask the county to respond and make final argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I just wanted to clarify real quick. It wasn't real clear when I did a site visit to John Sauer's property on March 22nd, and I delivered a notice of warning. That notice of warning was for John Sauer and for the occupant on that property. On April 13th of 2024, a notice of warning was sent to 89740 Highway 101, and a receipt for the certified letter states that an individual received that letter on April 13th. So those were 2 separate notice of warnings addressed to 2 separate property owners.
Let me just ask real quick then, on that receipt, that receipt of the certified notice of warning on April 13th. That one was addressed to the subject property.
That one was addressed to Marie and Raymond.
Okay, and does it show who signed for that in the?
No, I sent the certified letters. It doesn't, when I received the receipts, it just says that your item was delivered to an individual at the address.
Okay.
Is all that it tells me.
Okay, and then I think I heard Ms. Nguyen explain that somebody intercepted that notice, that it may not have been received by the.
That was the first notice that was delivered on. I hand delivered that first notice to John Sauer and the occupant. That was delivered on March 22nd.
Okay.
We did ask one of the female about it, actually, because she brought it up, because when she found out that we were dealing with the violations, and we contacted her and said, you know, you need to move your stuff off the hill. She did hand John one of the notices. I don't know if it's the one that you posted, Nancy, on the RV, on that black RV, or if it was one that came in the mail, but she did tell us that she had gotten it and just threw it away because it was made out to John Sauer, and she didn't know that name and didn't know they were related to us. And so she thought that it had gotten to the wrong people. And she said something about something being posted that she pulled off to. So, and they were getting mail here. So John did not get it. So the receipt, if you have signed receipt, it didn't come to John. So that's why I'm saying she must have intercepted it because we didn't know.
That's a different notice of warning. The one addressed to John Sauer is not the same one that was sent to Marie and Raymond.
Yeah. If they're coming on separate dates by the time she said she pulled it, and then I don't know if she just didn't give us mail or whatever, but we did not physically know about this until April of this year, and we acted on it immediately.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that it was 2 separate notice of warnings, and there was the one mailed to John Sauer, went to a Portland address or somewhere over there. So, and then I posted the black van, for the occupant that was living there that had been there. So the other letter was mailed to, the 89740 Highway 101, and somebody did sign for that, on April 16th, I believe it was. And then there was just a couple other things that I needed to clarify too, if I could, please.
Yes.
I have I have a picture on March 22nd of 2024 when I posted the notice of warning on the John Sauer property. I took a photo of the RV, of what I called the RV, the occupied RV, that's surrounded by accumulation of solid waste. So is that is that not your RV, Ashley? Is that a different one?
That's not ours, that's Kirk's. The black bus is Kirk's.
No, I'm talking about, sorry, there's another photo on March 22nd of an RV that's surrounded by what I called an accumulation of solid waste with a mattress and personal belongings.
That Rexall,
Yeah.
yeah, that one that's been there that RV's been there for a long time. That pile that you see in that one photo was actually the day that we found out that it was leaking. So that's the mattress from inside there, and blankets and linens and stuff like that all got damaged and were moldy that we had pulled out of the RV, because at the time we thought maybe we could still save it. So it's all sitting out there just waiting to go to the dump. We didn't have a truck at this time, a pickup truck we were waiting for Kirk to bring his trailer so we could load that up. So that stuff sat out there for a week, maybe at the most, but that all came out of that Rexall, and was disposed of, I think within a week, pretty quick, because it was moldy. So.
Okay, and is that the same RV that's pictured in April 13th of 2025 with the awning out?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
same.
Okay,
I
okay,
don't know if any of those pictures show it. I didn't look close enough, but that awning basically is out because there's toolboxes underneath it. So it was basically tool storage, so that's why that awning was out, just so the guys have a place to sit sheltered, and it was protecting the toolboxes.
and what, so I don't understand, Ashley, what RV is yours then?
The big one, that was parked cattywampus, kind of in one of the first photos in the yard, that has the blue tarp on it. That the biggest one in all these pictures is mine. It's the Damon Intruder, and it's the Class A with the flat nose. That's mine, and
Okay.
it didn't show up, here again until April of last year, mid-April, I think it was, because I was going on vacation. He needed to babysit my cat.
Okay, thank you. So I was told that there was somebody living in that RV.
Nope, it's fine, and I'm the only one that even goes in there. I'm pretty particular about my spaces, and that RV wasn't even here until April of this year. It was at my house in St. Helens. I have photos of it sitting in my yard in St. Helens I could give you, but it was simply out here. Just now it's here, staying here because I'm here helping him with his mom after his surgery, and also I'm working on it. It's pretty much gutted right now too, because I had a leak. So my cat's in there, but I'm not in there.
Okay, and so I define a RV occupation based on if there's personal belongings around the RV, if there's a deck off the RV, if there's garbage cans, vehicles parked around it, or the location of the RV, like the RV that the other individual was occupying on the west side of the property. Now, just not any one of these things define RV occupation, but several of them do indicate that somebody is living in there, and that was how I determined that somebody was living in the RV. So I had another question about when you said that I came to a site visit in April of 2025. I don't recall that.
Visit where you talked to John in person?
That was March 22nd of 2024 was the first time that I spoke with John. And that is when he told myself and the deputy to leave the property. We were trespassed at that point, and I did not actually go back onto the property until June 6th of 2025 after I spoke with him on the phone about the notice of hearing. And it was on June 6th that he received the notice of hearing. So it was actually March 22nd, 2024 was the first time I spoke with John.
Okay, yeah, he's sitting right here shaking his head. He's saying no the first time he talked to you. Now, I would assumed it was in person because, you know, it says in your exhibits, a site visit or something
Mhm.
doesn't. But he, you know, we just didn't know about it until April of this year. And he said he talked to you, so I assumed it was in person, but now he's shaking his head. No, it must have been over the phone. Or how did you know? Was it just getting the notice in the mail?
About the notices, yeah, I remember they showed up on the property that day, but I mean, as far as notices go on.
Okay, so he's saying it came in the mail, so that's how we found out. And he saw people taking photos across the street. So, yeah, he doesn't remember talking to you at all in 2024.
Okay, yeah, I don't think it's probably relevant, but it was, the conversation was recorded by the Clatsop County Sheriff's Office. And I don't have that, submitted as evidence at this point. I think.
I'm hearing
So-
you right, because the awning was out on the Rexall, that would make it appear to be lived in. Is that what the concern is?
No, so the awning, the personal belongings around it, their electricity to it. There's not just one single thing that defines an RV occupancy. It is several different things that we base RV occupancy on. And then also if somebody tells us, you know, that they're living in an RV or that somebody is living in the RV, we use those different things to decide whether an RV is being occupied or not.
There's the Rexall, the one with the awning out has never had power to it. That was damaged. The electrical system is so damaged, we've never had power to it. So
Anyway, for 30 days at a time.
yeah. And then my RV, it's always plugged in when I'm here because I run a dehumidifier. And like I said, the cat's in it, but there's no personal belongings ever sitting outside of that one because mine comes and goes. So they were not lived in, and nobody would have said they were lived in. So I'm in and out of mine all the time, but because my cat's out there.
Okay, so what's the deal with, now I'm gonna say something.
You gotta come over here, John.
With, it says you can live up in one of these RVs up to 30 days at a time. You know?
Yeah, but we weren't even, so it doesn't even.
I know it
apply.
doesn't, but so what's the big, I mean, what's the deal?
Well, because they assume that they've been lived in the whole time.
No,
Okay,
come on.
all right.
And then
I think we're kind of at a point in the hearing where I'm just asking for the county to respond at this point. I think if I hear anything that I might have questions on or need clarification on, I'll definitely ask and we can, you know, modify, but maybe we can just go ahead and have county finish up responding and giving final argument.
okay, and then as far as the individual that was occupying the black van, you stated that he was on your property.
Yeah, it was, that wasn't on adjacent property, it was on ours, and he wasn't in the black van, he was in a tent. Yeah, because his black van is his tool storage and personal effects storage, I think, just keep things dry.
Okay, because it did state in the incident report that he stated he had been given permission to stay on the property and had been there for a year.
Yeah, John had told him that he could bring all of his stuff and he had been given permission to stay. And then 6 months into that stay, he did say, hey, can I pitch a tent? Because the place that we've been staying at, we can't stay there anymore. So, and that's when Nancy came on. So, but they were in a tent. I've never even been inside that black bus, so I don't even know if has a bed in there or not. I think it's like a old school bus, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
And there was-
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, there was no power back there either.
Okay. All right. I think that's all of the questions that I have.
Okay, and is there anything else that you would like to say in final rebuttal, Ms. Mendoza?
That to me.
Yes, no, it's for me, Ashley. So I did want to clarify what we consider solid waste. So it is any material that is discarded, that is abandoned or stored in the open, lowering the quality of the material being stored or causing it to deteriorate. So anything that's stored out in the open it could potentially be solid waste, and that can be construction material, it can be household garbage, it can be animal waste. It's can be a lot of things.
And is there a state deadline or timeline on what is considered accumulation? Because your photos show no same pile in each photo, you know, so I don't understand how you're saying it accumulated when we're making active dump runs, you know, and your photos show that, so I don't, it's the accumulation. It's, you know, we don't let it accumulate. That's where my objection is that it's stuff sitting outside that's personal belongings, you know. How do you say that that's an accumulation of personal waste when it's tools and things like that, or stuff that's being used to work on the cars? But like household garbage and stuff, that stuff's going to the dump weekly. So there is no accumulation. So that's why it's confusing to me. I don't understand how, yeah, it sometimes does not look bad or looks bad, but it's not accumulating. And your photos clearly show that it's not accumulating.
I would ask Ms. Mendoza then, do you know, are there photos in the record that show like the same stuff out from like one site visit or one set of pictures on a date to another date?
Yes, so I have a photo of from March 22nd of 2024 that shows inoperable vehicles, two white vehicles with missing tires. I also have another photo from April 13th of 2025, so just over a year later, of those, at least one of those same vehicles in the front yard. Other vehicles have been moved around, but there are those photos. And
Of the vehicle, but it doesn't are we talking about the waste photos, or are we talking about the inoperable vehicles? I'm sorry, I was confused.
we were talking about any photos that show like accumulation of waste from one period to the next. So that's what I was talking about. Were the vehicles that may also be considered solid waste. I don't know if I have any other photos. All I have, not all that I have, but the photos that I have from April 13th, 2025, and then through, there's May 9th, showed some cleanup, May 29th and June 6th or June 4th, showed vehicles, and some garbage. But the most important thing is that I never received documentation that any of this work had been done until after the administrative review had been completed.
And that is miscommunication on our part, because I had talked to you over the phone. I thought when we talked and we told you what was being done, that you guys were going to come out and do another site visit. I didn't realize, we thought that submitting proof was only if we were objecting. Does that make sense? And I said, John, don't object. We just, we're already in the process of clearing the stuff out. When she comes back and sees, she'll see we're no longer in violation. So that was a misunderstanding on my part. I didn't realize that we were supposed to be giving you, proof. I thought that was just if we were wanting to file an objection. So, and me and you spoke on the phone multiple times, and I told you what was being done. So I thought that was meeting the obligation of providing proof, and that you would see upon your next site visit that we had done it. So that's my fault, that we didn't submit proof, but I thought we were in compliance and getting in compliance, and anybody walking on the property could see, that it was being done. So that it wasn't a willful, just ignoring and not, because it's obvious just by your photos that you took on May 9th and the 21st or whatever it was, and in June, that it looks way different. I mean, the whole side yard where the cars were is totally clean and clear. So that we just didn't submit proof because I thought that our conversations between you and I on the phone and you coming and visiting again would show that we had satisfied the requirement to clean it up.
Okay, I'll ask Ms. Mendoza if you would like to respond to that, and then if there's anything else, but maybe we're coming to a close here. Go ahead if you would like to respond to what Ms. Quinn was just speaking of.
Thank you. I have no other response at this time.
Okay. Great, then I think that we have reached the end of the hearing, and I don't think that we need to leave the record open for me to issue a decision. I think I'll probably address the appellant's questioning of whether the county has provided sufficient evidence, a preponderance of the evidence to prove that those violations existed. I'll address that in my decision. And also the county's recommendation for imposition of penalties. And I'll include the conditions that we talked about, the supplemental information that Ms. Wynn and Mr. Owen can provide to the county after my decision and before 30 days from issuance of my decision. And so look for that. It will be coming out in a couple of weeks.
Can I add one more thing for you to consider? Maria's on a fixed income and John is her full-time caregiver. So he does not work out of the home because she has to have someone here 24/7. So imposition of a $1,500 fine would be catastrophic for them. So it's just something I would hope that the county would consider, especially since we've done our best to this point, despite the medical limitations, to rectify any of this. So we are making an effort. So we would just like that to be considered, because $1,500, some people might not be a lot, but to them it would be, catastrophic. So that's it. And I do want to thank you guys for resetting this hearing for us and giving us a couple more weeks to deal with stuff.
Thank you. And Ms. Mendoza, do you have anything else?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay. All right, then I will close the hearing. It's 12:39 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.